as we get your first best of one started on the Rift.
And this seems like a few more wards than I'm used to, specifically because Nintendo X started with a ward on Jungle Nunu. I think he's going to be going for a little bit of that throwback where he just tries to counter jungle a bit more. Elise is not the fastest early clearing jungle, and we are getting spammed with pings right now, Riv.
You wouldn't think they were wearing headphones.
Ping, 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 ping.
This is how we communicate. Nobody talk, only me. They got good wards down, so they're going to see the invade. Those pings were, yeah, get that ward at the top near Baron area as fast as possible, and then get back down here for the safety. So they're just going to play this one out for that ward, for the jungle control, or sight on the jungler, I should say, as they go back to safety.
And getting that deep ward specifically for TSM was very important against a jungle Nunu. Way back in Season 1, before any kind of Nunu changes were made, Odd1 invented competitive jungle Nunu, so he knows how counter jungling is going to be working here for Nintendo X. And when they put that ward in the Wraiths, they really keep sector control of where Nintendo X is going to be going, because if he's walking through that spot, they know where he is, therefore he can't be in the red or the blue jungle of TSM countering it.
We'll see if there's any position focus by the Odd1 or transition once he sees the movement of Nunu through the ward or after it. Moving up towards mid side, looks like a lot of pressure from Team SoloMid is going to be put towards that top to make sure they don't lose anything. And it looks like everybody splits for this one.
And I think they snuck through that ward that GGU had actually placed in the river because the brush would have blocked the Fog of War vision. But maybe not. I wish I could. I should have been toggling the Fog of War there. Nintendo X still going right through the ward that he saw that was placed.
They wanted to grab somebody coming over from blue as they went to mid, and that was going to be Shifter, but Shifter's bottom with the team, and it looks like they're going to start going for, like you said, the invade here. Goes ahead, grabs the blue up, so they're going to be safe on that. Goes to the Odd1, so a little back and forth, so they are taking chances against each other. Game one.
There's a huge amount of early action there. Even the Nami plus Twitch late invade on the Odd1, forcing him to burn flash. And as we talked about in mid lane, they're already brawling. Reginald burning his Ignite right off the bat, potentially to get that extra 5 AD in the lane.
He's got the potions going off. It looks like it's going to be Armor and Pots coming in for Shifter. He knows he's going to be against that hard engaged lane. Good damage going down onto Dyrus in the bottom as we did get the switch up between the AD carry and the support. We'll have to see how that's played. Vlad definitely going to have more fun in that lane.
Vlad is decent against the 1v2 in the 1v2 situations, but if he gets hit by one hook from X Special, the Draven's just going to turn right onto him, and I feel like that's why Nintendo X is trying to stay pushed up here. X Special's trying to harass him off that, and since Nintendo doesn't have his smite up, he's got to be a little bit careful with how he times his consume.
You know, this is why wards help. X Special knew this from the Wraith movement already over, so he started the engagement to walk down, and he was able to harass Nintendo X from the start of this. He knows he can just mess with his health. Whether he gets the blue or not, he's pressuring the jungle so hard right now.
And Nintendo still gets away from it. That looked really annoying, though. Props to him for sticking it out and not letting his blue get denied, because I think he's been able to take this one safely.
As Nunu, you're going to be able to consume, so the health isn't that much of a problem. But the Odd1 is a problem. There's the Cocoon, goes down. He goes for that Q. He turns into Spider. Is he going to have the engage? He cannot get back, but he forces the flash, and there's a little bit more jungle pressure for Nintendo.
And specifically, that keeps Nintendo out of the lanes. It means that the rest of the lanes can stay safe, especially X Special and Wild Turtle trying to push up on Zion Spartan. Gives them that added level of comfort and could potentially give them that turret over in the top lane.
Looks like Shifter is trying to make a move bottom. They've seen that the jungler is down. They want to try to give Dyrus help and try to act off of this here. They're not help Dyrus, hurt Dyrus rather, I should say. Turtle in the top lane as they push. X Special is going to try to do the same thing with Odd1 as the junglers just kind of mirroring each other now.
Hey man, this is what we saw at the very start of the first split was the 3-man dives. Gotta say, TSM has the edge on this one as their lane is pushing a lot better. And this is Shifter, the mid laner, trying to come over for a gank. They might be going for Dyrus, but a level 4 Shen is very hard to tower dive.
That turret has a lot of health. He gets a few shots onto Shifter. Should be all right. Shifter actually taking that for himself. Dyrus is going to be able to stay in lane. Get a few more minions before he gets pushed back on that one. Zion Spartan not anywhere near his turret either. So like I said, these teams mirroring each other here just about 5 minutes in.
And first turret going down for TSM could be quite huge depending on how they capitalize on the rest of this one. If they can somehow get through without, you know, get their AD carrying support moving before Team Coast does, it'll be advantageous. But because Daydream and Don't Mash Me did get that turret down, it should be fairly close to an even trade.
Both solo lanes at that about 10 to 12 CS. Shifter taking some good damage in mid as Reginald going aggressive. So right there, already Reginald dictating mid, blowing his mana bar, knowing he needs to go back. We're going to have to see what they can all come back to lane with.
And this is a big thing. When Shifter went to roam into Dyrus's bottom lane, Reginald just kept on farming. That's why he's actually double what Shifter is right now in minion kills, which once it gets to killing time in the mid lane could be very important.
You can see Shifter not taking the chance to go back here, which becomes even more scary, because if Reginald comes back and finds him there a little too far extended, it's going to be a problem. He'll probably take this, get himself back to safety, and he's just going to back right there in lane.
Yeah, he really is trying to catch up in that lane, but he's dug himself a hole. Also because Dyrus has been able to get a lot of experience. If Shifter ever wanted to go in for that Zed all-in early on, it's most likely not going to work because Dyrus would be able to reactively get back on it. And since he was trying to catch up, everyone on GGU went back to shop. This looks like a fairly uncontested dragon for TSM, unless Nintendo could come up with a miracle suicide steal.
A few unfortunate timings there, and Team SoloMid takes the advantage. They grab Dragon up at 6 minutes into the game, something we really only saw Complexity going for, but there was no contest there. They just had full map control.
It was a smart move not to contest for Team Coast, but it was a smarter move by TSM to just make the play in the first place. And already at 6 minutes and 30 seconds, Reginald is trying to pick up that free lane farm. He is the carry of this team. If Reginald goes well, TSM goes well, and he's already top farm in the game on Kha'Zix because of that free lane farm.
And we saw that Mashmi and Daydreamin stayed in that bottom lane. Like you said, top lane in that farm, 33-19. Dyrus has been forced to kind of help and just be utility for the team here. He's not going to be the tank they need him to be if he keeps going like this.
I think there'll be a point in the game once Dyrus starts split pushing, he'll be able to make up some of this off farm that he's missing right now, because the big thing TSM is focusing on is just that overall objective control, which Dyrus is helping with while Reginald gets the farm. So the other 4 members of TSM are dictating the pace to Coast while Reginald is created openings. Reginald hasn't had to lane against people to get this farm. He's just getting it alone in a lane.
Yeah, Team SoloMid is playing super reactionary right now. They've put everyone mid, like you said. They're objective focused. They know if they lose mid, it opens up too much of the map. And we saw Dyrus there 6 minutes into the game in mid. They had 3 to guard that. So moving accordingly. Coast trying to put that pressure on continuously. Still no kills, but 1 turret to 1 in that top of the bottom lane. Let's see Zion Spartan taking some good engage. And it looks like they will just start to back off in the top lane. It's farm back and forth.
Yeah, and the big thing here for Team Coast is they got to get a little bit of control back. Nintendo X is still level 4. Jungle Nunu is supposed to be a monster in the jungle, especially with those earlier changes I want to talk about. And I just want to highlight them a little bit more right now. For his consume, if you can get a reptile, so like a lizard type thing, he gets 1% of his max health as damage every time he lands with attacks or spells. Also, 10% max health for golem type monsters, and 15% movement speed after 3 seconds if he kills wolves or wraiths. So like, not only is he moving around the jungle faster, he's tankier, and he does more damage if he can keep all 3 of those buffs up. But he's not able to do that if he's not leveling in the jungle.
The odd one, like you said, used to be a pioneer of the Nunu jungle. He knows what's happening. He already blew the flash in the beginning for Nintendo X on that blue aggression. So he's been making it hard for Nunu to even get an advantage off of those passives. We'll see Dyrus getting a ward and safety into the top lane. It's not going too bad for him, but like you said, he's making up on that CS. He was 30 down, he's only 20, so it actually is increasing as he's in lane against Zion Spartan. That should be held.
Yeah, Dyrus, with the heavy magic resist, at least right now against Zion Spartan, is able to farm kind of to his heart's content. But the big thing here is Nintendo X has yet to cross the path into the Odd One's jungle, which was kind of supposed to be his edge. If you're going to pick Nunu against Elise in the jungle, Elise, I feel like, has had a little bit more lane presence than Nintendo X right now, as well as having higher farms. So that is still advantage Odd One right now in the jungle.
So looking at Reginald items as he has purchased, we see that Zed actually has not been back, Shifter rather. He has not finished up that Brutalizer. That's in Reginald's hands, along with the tier being stacked, his blue buff as well has been going to Nuno. So he is continuously punishing Shifter. You can see the lane swap coming in here.
And it's a 2-level advantage for Reginald in mid lane over Shifter. That's why Shifter is completely avoiding fighting. It's not just the item advantage, it was the experience advantage as well. Reginald will be able to dictate, and I feel like once level 11 hits for Reginald, it's actually going to fairly closely coincide with the dragon respawning for TSM, and they might look to try to take a bit of control there. That's what Team Coast is going to have to avoid against.
9-minute Spirit of the Spectral Wraith coming in for the odd one. He hasn't even had any kills. That's just a 43 CS. He's been staying in the jungle and just waiting for the perfect opportunity. You really haven't seen any from him yet.
No, he hasn't been able to make that much of an impact. Trying to push up mid lane a little bit here as Team Coast, but always Reginald is coming back. He clears the wave so quickly with those Kha'Zix Void Spikes that there just hasn't been an amount of pressure that Coast has been able to put back. Another thing is with the new Zed nerf, Zed can't push back as well as he could previously on the earlier patches, and that's another thing that's keeping Coast kind of on their back foot here.
For as an aggressive level 1 as we had, these teams have just kind of paused the game in themselves. They see a fight, they back off, there's a few auto attacks, but there's really been no lane ganks, no aggression, even in the 3v1s when the junglers went to help the lanes.
And they're trading a little bit of farm because you can see Zion Spartan is up on Dyrus, and that's kind of made up for the fact that Reginald is ahead of Shifter. And also on the bottom lane, Wild Turtle and Don't Mash Me have pretty much been trading. Walking through this ward, it looks like TSM's trying to get more of a stranglehold on the map control because they put that many people straight up through a ward, and Coast just had to back away.
My gosh, Reginald level 10 right now, level 9 behind him, but everybody else is 7 and 8 on Coast and even his own team. So Reginald really trying to make moves. You saw him go to the bottom, but he says, I need to guard mid, and he may be able to give Zion Spartan some big trouble here. He knows that Noon is behind him, so he plays it safe.
And it's becoming more and more clear that the priority for these teams right now is just pushing.
Yep.
They're not necessarily looking to fight each other because TSM is accelerating the lane game just by farming so hard and so fast. Reginald doing the most of that with the Tear of the Goddess and the blue buff that the Odd One has provided him, and it's keeping Coast from being able to pull off any type of roaming.
TSM roaming is, or keeping the roam from happening is really completely stopping them from taking the turrets as well. It's happening for both sides here at 12 minutes in. 2,000 gold, however, in favor of Team SoloMid as they are patiently just kind of pushing these lanes down. The CS a bit in their favor. Reginald, like we said, up a bit by 20. The CS and the AD carries is exactly the same right now.
And you can see TSM setting up a couple plays here. They already have a strong push middle. So if Coast doesn't respond to this, they're going to lose another turret. But that Dragon is up very shortly too. Zion Spartan having to burn his pool to get away. And there's a Shen up top that could potentially ult down, whereas Shifter would not be able to come. So a lot of advantages potentially brewing here for TSM.
Nintendo Dax taking quite a bit of poke here as he tries to get these guys away from the turret. Will they be able to engage it? It looks like the next wave is going to be too far away to take it down just yet. But the pressure still stays. They got good damage onto 2, and that's what you're saying, Jet. They may try for Dragon here.
And Shifter knows it's coming. That's why he's running down very quickly. So now it's on TSM to wonder if they're going to be poking at this Dragon or just all out going for it. And it looks like they're trying to spike this one down real fast.
Coast was walking towards it, but they said this might be a bad idea. 1 Dragon or 2 has never cost you the game. Let's give it to him, and we'll play this safe.
And that was that playstyle from Reginald, just zoning out the entire enemy team. He jumped into that side lane river brush, and it made Team Coast scared of just checking it against him, even though he was the only one there, and Reginald wouldn't really have been able to do something there. Just the threat of his presence was enough to keep that Dragon safe for TSM.
And they are super considering what they need and how far ahead they are right now. Dyrus' first item becomes the Bulwark without even anything else.
That's more of a team fight threat than anything else for Dyrus. It gives him a bit of safety if he's trying to lane against Zion Spartan. It doesn't give him that much safety if Shifter decides to play up against him. And that's going to be a bit of a mind game now as it progresses, whether Reginald is the one that has to fight against Zion, or sorry, Shifter,
and whether
they keep Dyrus with Zion Spartan as they try to push mid. 5-3.
Double bubble on the Odd One in Reginald. There's a nice Draven ulti coming across. Mastery on the backside. Turret has focus onto him. It looks like they keep going in. First blood going out to Zion Spartan. They continue in the fight. It's going to be special going down as well. And not having Draven there really hurt them. They get pushed down the turret. The flash Q from Spartan. The transfusion, triple kill, and maybe another turret.
And looks like Coast just kind of lulled TSM asleep there. Didn't seem like they had the hard enough initiation, but once Daydreamin' landed that bubble, it was just the initiation from there, bubble into tidal wave. Coast just spammed down a bunch of Vladimir damage. Dyrus' ultimate didn't even proc, keeping it a 5v3, and they got the turret out of that. I feel like, yeah, the turret out of that and multiple kills, so they pulled the gold almost even there.
Yeah, they got a lot of kills. That was, if you will, double bubble trouble right there. And you said Daydreamin', one to pick up Nami, and you know what? Played pretty crazy with it.
Yeah, I think I got a little confused earlier because I was like, Bloodwater played Nami before, because earlier on in the last split, Bloodwater was a member of GG, which is now Team Coast. So the team has played with Nami before, but Daydreamin', this is his debut with Nami in the LCS.
Well, he's debuting very well. We know he got a triple kill with Thresh in his first one anyways, so he picks up kills. He's no stranger to the kill score.
And they picked up a lot of items off of that too. The Golem Spirit was completed by Nintendo X, and just with that item, thanks to that consume passive. Also the fact that Nunu has the highest base health in the game before that. He's got 2100 health at level 8 on Nunu, so he's turning into a tank despite being behind on farm. Plus the Blade of the Ruin King on Shifter could help his spike.
There's half health as Reginald takes about 10% of his. Looks like he may want to go back in for this. No, he chooses not to. The team's coming up from behind him. Team SoloMid has control of the bottom jungle right now, so Reginald's here to just pretty much throw out that Void Spike spam.
And Coast needs to wait about 10 more seconds if they want to try to initiate a fight, which is why TSM is pushing so hard right now. But they got to be a little careful. If Daydreamin lands another bubble, that last team fight was devastatingly effective for Team Coast, and TSM should respect that.
We'll see what they can do. They're posturing for Nintendo Dax to be in the front here. Kind of wait this one back. They still have Dyrus pushing down that mid lane, so they're keeping focus on more than one spot, which to their credit is more than Coast is doing right now, but they do put Zed over to that. Shifter's going to start pushing that lane, so they're kind of even at this point. 3 kills for Coast. Really putting them on top here. That first blood from Zion Spartan to start that first fight.
Very key in that game, but it's not really dissuaded TSM from staying pushed up.
No.
They took a hit, but they're saying, what we were working on earlier is fine. We lost that fight because Dyrus didn't make it in. He couldn't give them the benefit of the Runic Bulwark, and they're just saying we're not going to make that mistake again, as they're still trying to split push those lanes.
Dyrus actually caught up in CS now, 153 to 133. Where is Mashmi? He is still farming up, and even though they've stayed as 5, Mashmi's still keeping his farm up to Wild Turtle, who's been free farming pretty much this entire time.
And another thing we should mention about Don't Mash Me's Twitch is earlier on in the spring split, he said he was unbeatable on Twitch, or that he never lost with it. He ended up losing with it a few times, but now that we're in a fresh split, completely confident again, and he is incredibly potent with that champion, knowing when and how to open up. It's a little difficult here for Team Coast because they don't have really that hard crowd control to keep people in place, but a farm Twitch late game is more devastating than a late game Drave.
See Zion Spartan trying to hold mid as Will back. See what Twitch has for himself. He's going back with 660 in gold, so he won't get himself too much. He is just looking to get back to lane and farm more. He was too pushed up in that bottom lane. So, you know, Coast can only go so far right now. They know there is a wall on this map that they have to get through with a fight and not just one by one.
And that wall really seems to be just the river. They're afraid to go even that far. They don't have ward control past the river, and they're still just giving the free lane farm to Reginald wherever he sees fit. Nintendo catching X Special a little bit, but he's able to just hook over the wall while Reginald continues the split push. This could be another opportunity, actually, for Coast to push up the mid lane, but if they don't go very quickly, Reginald would take a whole bunch of power down bottom.
Coast now trying to make moves of their own, and it looks like they... Well, no, they just wanted to ward. They looked like they were going headstrong for Reginald, but I guess not. Reggie actually has 2 wards for himself down there, so he probably would have been able to jump out in an easy situation. And
Reginald has kept himself out of Coast vision for quite a while now, so he's in kind of a weird no man's land right now where Coast thinks he could have gone back, and for all intents and purposes, he may have just gone back already because he's not doing anything by standing those brushes down bottom.
And Coast has put a lot of focus, 4 times 125 on that Dragon area, well, up to Dragon as well. So they are really looking to get themselves back in the game with a move here.
Pink Ward City. One of the things that could help with that is a lot of times Kazix can escape a little bit around with his ultimate, which stealths him for about a second. Anywhere in that Dragon area, he's going to go uncatched, and unfortunately, Daydreamin misses his bubble, which leaves him open.
Oh, he goes right in there. Not going to be able to see it there. Daydreamin goes out instantly. He jumps out. Nintendo Dex gets the full ulti down, but it's not going to be enough. Reginald coming in with another kill and the reset. Mashmi finds one from the outside, but it's going to be the odd one picking up another one. Reginald in pursuit of Zion Spartan. Shifter still alive, but not in the fight.
The smallest of mistakes can get jumped on by a team as coordinated as Team SoloMid. As soon as that Nami bubble went down, TSM knew they could just go. X Special landed the great death sentence, and Shifter had not made it down to that dragon fight yet, so TSM just rolled through Team Coast and took the dragon afterwards.
Difficult to use a ward when you're standing on it.
Yeah, that was not the best set of circumstances for Team Coast. If they landed the bubble on X Special, maybe they could have had that fight, but TSM was already collapsing around from all angles. It might have ended up being like a 3-for-2, but it still looked like TSM just had the positional advantage with or without that bubble toss. I'm not sure.
Well, even with Nami's ult right now, it's so much of a disengage for them, and that would really help with how much they can just get into your face. Dyrus really not even needing to be there for that fight, so this is kind of scary for them. Well, he ulted, so.
He did have the ultimate, which is kind of the presence he needs to have. He's just trying to split push. Once Dyrus gets that Sunfire cape, he'll be split pushing even harder. Still only about 3,000 gold, and we know the teamfight potential of Coast if they catch TSM in the right situation.
see SoloMid trying to keep all the advantages up here. Pink wards may not do too much for Coast here. It may have been a waste of money. We'll see if it comes up for them, if they can get that return on investment, but it could hurt. That could have been something else for them. Shifter up top, making sure he's not in a bad spot, but he is getting pinched right now.
And I think he's going to get away safe until they save him. I think it was actually TSM not knowing where Coast was, making them want to back off. There is an Oracles on X Special as well, which could be very important. Coast posturing a little bit because they know Reginald isn't there, but really that 600 gold of pink wards that Coast used to Dragon, which ended up just giving the Dragon back to TSM, is a much bigger gold swing than it would seem at first glance.
26,000 to 31,000, 27,000 it just ticked up here. 3-2 in turrets of Team SoloMid grabbing global objectives and global pressure. They're taking it a little slow right now, seeing if they can get Coast to come out of the woodwork here, but Coast is just going to clean up the jungle. 21 minutes in at 4-3. The kills are still very close, but the fights are really starting to sway in TSM's favor. And
we haven't really seen a full-on brawl yet. We've seen a lot of fights get started in poor circumstances for either team. It's tough in the first game here with all the practice these guys coming in, actually getting those full-on fights when you're only really wanting to take the fights that have your edge. You're not comfortable necessarily yet, since it's the first time back for these guys after 6 weeks of non-studio time, and I feel like they're still kind of getting their feet wet.
They're all in the, oh my god, I don't want to lose.
Yeah, don't make the mistake.
No.
Don't make the mistake. Hey man, it could happen.
It could happen.
Just win every single game.
Win every one. Darius looks to go back here. Looks like Shifter will actually use this to push the turret. He does not want to alert him to his presence. And they're going to grab that and no, they won't grab Baron. That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, even with Nunu, who is the fastest Baron killer in the game, don't mash me, Baron.
Oh dear.
That hurt. That really hurt.
That is
Reginald had great poke there, and then just takes on a team by himself, going all in for Shifter.
Oh, here he comes. Reginald is his own Baron, and it looks like he's going to get some help from Dyrus. Shifter does not look like he's going to make it out. Oh, the bubble comes up. It doesn't get Dyrus close enough. They're going to force flash that one out to get the kill, but that was a pretty good job by Daydreaming there to pause that one out.
And now it could be a power play by TSM because there's the odd one flanking around the back.
He flashes over, throws on the locket, takes the initial burst of damage from the team, and it looks like there's the absolute zero. He procs it right at the start, though, and it looks like they are forced out of this one. Wild Turtle gets a little too aggressive on that one in his first fight that we really see him in, and he goes down 5-5 now.
80 carry trade doesn't necessarily benefit TSM because they burned a lot to come in from the back there. Flash barrier burned by Wild Turtle and flash burned by the odd one to get that initiation. Considering they just traded that, that's not worth it unless TSM can make something count off this mid-turret push.
They do have 4,000 gold lead. They should be able to just abuse the power and number strategy right now. They throw it on the ward. They know they have the turret, but they're not going to press their luck on this one.
Still coming out of that a little bit ahead, showing the aggression. They've been sleeping a little bit for 23 minutes here. The game hasn't been what we've come to expect from a lot of these TSM games, but it could still turn that way. You could tell they're getting a little bit antsy. They really wanted to go in for those fights, and Reginald's reaching that point where he can start eating people on Kha'Zix.
Reginald getting pretty charged right now. 724, that 750, so we're going to see it in just a few seconds as he goes into that Muramana and that extreme amount of damage. Sunfire Cape now into Dyrus as he gets his second item. That split push now going to be a little bit more troublesome for Coast.
And it looks like Coast is trying to make something happen now. All five grouped up. This is a window they have where their side lanes are kind of pushed up. They're looking to get some kind of easy fight start if Daydreaming can land a bubble because they're getting a little bit picked off by Reginald's roam and the global presence by Dyrus, so they're trying to keep TSM corralled and saying, if we can win a 5v5 fight now, we can get back control of this game, is what Coast is saying.
TSM has kind of an easy way to think about that fight. They look at Coast and that's a walk-up initiation. Who's going to jump at you? Nobody's really going to hit you hard, so they're just waiting this out for Coast to really step out of line.
And I feel like Nintendo X also isn't strong enough on Nunu at this point with only 69 farm and a couple of items. Despite having nearly 3,000 health right now, he's just not able to run through all of the wall of TSM damage that they have. Plus the Oracles still on X Special, just about to wear out, but continually controlling that Baron area is making Coast a little apprehensive about how they position and how they try to fight.
You know, it gets scary. Zion Spartan does have the Zanyas, but that means the fight's all about big plays. It's not about being able to win the fight straight up. They're going to have to play this perfectly.
And the spray and pray went out from Don't Mash Me already, which means TSM might decide to go right in.
Odd One decides to go in. He's going to give him something to think about. There's the disengage from Nami. They're going to get Nintendo X ult right out of him. Dyrus goes in. They get that Vladimir. He's going to pull. He has not used used the Zhonya's yet either. Goes down without using Zhonya's. Daydream and follows after. The triple kill. The whoa coming in from Kha'Zix. He can't do it again. The fourth coming in for Dyrus. And it looks like they're going to push the lane. Again, Shifter not in the fight.
Total 4 for 0 by TSM. Reginald powering up the whole game, and it pays off. He got the Merman transfer right before that fight. Didn't even activate it, actually. You can see his mana is still full. That could have been even more deadly for TSM. And unless Shifter can pull off some kind of miracle, this is a Baron for TSM.
They are going to grab this with the utmost ferocity. I don't think Shifter's going to make it out alive.
Oh,
the
wow.
shield goes down. Oh, man, the amount of damage these guys can do, one, the other, or combined right now, is enough to take it down with Baron and have somebody else fight.
And that was a really good sign for TSM, the way Dyrus just knew to ult Reginald. There have been some conflicts in the past about Dyrus ulting in at the right moment to Reginald, and he held it through the entire previous fight. Maybe it was on cooldown, we'll have to go back and check later, but he ulted that just right, making sure to take out Shifter and just give TSM even more goodies.
So we'll see. Coast now returning back to their lanes. Mashme trying to get farmed up. We saw it in that fight. There were a few things, you know, that TSM got. The few things that they checked off their list before that fight. We said they had to wait for Coast to step out of line. Mashme's ult went off like you said. Zion Spartan didn't get to use Zhonya's. Team SoloMid on the back of the odd one off of that one, coming out very big, giving Reginald now a Guardian Angel on top of his Cleaver with the finish Muramana, Last Whisper. Everybody's really getting big. We just had a double Giants belt buy as well for Team SoloMid.
And one of our featured matchups was the Reginald versus Shifter, never playing against each other in competitive play, and how TSM funnels so much of their farm in towards Reginald and how it's working out. Plus, Coast looks a little bit out of sync right now.
Right.
A lot of these fights that they've been losing, they've been using desync skills or having things miss. Daydream and missed that one bubble with Dragon, and it turned into that. And then Don't Mash Me tried to use his ultimate to catch out Wild Turtle despite not having follow-up. And now when they're getting pushed into their base, no one's around to defend this inhibitor, and TSM is just taking it.
Again, Team SoloMid abusing the power of numbers strategy. They just push down and in the eyes of Coast, take down their own inhibitor. They begin to back now. We were just talking about that Reginald 260 farm on him. And really, this has been a crazy game, right? Because it's like, where has Wild Turtle been? He's just kind of like been farming in lanes. Wild Turtle's usually making plays, but he's doing his own thing. He's
been off Dravening. All the free lane farm has just gone to Reginald, so Wild Turtle has just kind of held his own. He's still gotten those 6 assists, so it's not like he's not hitting things in team fights. And we're talking about Wild Turtle. They're going to be doing another fight here fairly quickly. I don't expect TSM to wait long outside of this turret based on how well they've been winning these team fights.
They have to know where the advantages stand. You are most correct, Jat. There's the death sentence going out from X Special. May see Nami coming in from the back side of the bubble here. There's the box going down. They're able to take down Nintendo to jump from Reginald, but the kill doesn't come in. The Zhonya's is still up there, so they do have some plays to be made. Shifter forced out. He still has the death mark up for his ultimate. Will they be able to go back? There is the disengage from Daydreaming, but they've already lost a few, and they're going to be forced to chase Zion Spartan. He tries to direct him away from the base. This may look very grim for Coast, Jat.
And Wild Turtle spent a lot of that fight actually hitting the turrets. TSM still to not suffer a casualty, doing whatever they want.
Both Odwin and Reginald go below 100, now back up as they regen from the Baron buff. But just after a back and forth, the dance goes off and Team SoloMid walks out with the ribbon.
That might be GG right there, because Reginald was really taking on a team by himself while Wild Turtle was taking on something else in just the turret. Very split up fight. Took out 3 more members of Coast. A lot of the holes the Coast pick themselves into are being exploited by TSM here. There's no hard initiation necessarily for Coast. TSM is scattering them around. They're jumping around the Navi bubbles, not getting initiated on, and they've gotten such an accumulated lead here that they're just pushing it properly.
We'll see these guys trying to clean up the mess here. They get out the mopping buckets. Mashme says, you guys clean that up. I'm going to go look and get some stuff at the store. 30 minutes into this one, these guys need a lot from the store. They have a good amount of core items, but they're all kind of just focusing on the same thing, and nobody's buying any defense except for that Zhonya's on Vladimir.
Yeah, that's not going to bode well in the next fight, I don't think. I would love to buy defense. I'm sure Coast wants to.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just don't have the income right now. Stuck at 3 turrets to 7. Denied every dragon of the game by TSM. Also the Baron buff. Plus Reginald doing whatever he wants. That was actually a rather foolish jump in by Reginald, but they can afford it at this point. No fear from Reginald.
He's got the ulti. He throws it on for a little bit of damage mitigation. X Special just on one side. They have the ward over. That Oracle on Daydreaming. Just keep them safe from wards in their base. That's really not what the situation you want it to be. Nintendo X taking so much poke just to get a flash, or an ice blast rather, down onto Dyrus. Looks like they continue to go on this one. Nintendo X falling very fast. There's the kills from Turtle coming in. Help with Odd One as well. Shifters find themselves a kill. Zion Spartan uses the Zanyas, but he goes down after. And it looks like Special is going to be chasing this one out. Flay has been used, but Daydream is going to be picked up by Wild Turtle. Here comes the inhibitor after the turret and possibly the Nexus turrets.
And these are pretty long death timers here for Coast. Shifter is the only one still alive with his home guard boots. This is inhibitor number 3. So if TSM doesn't end it right here, it wouldn't be far off. Reginald's the only one down. Looks like TSM's going to try to take this one.
Opening day shows well for the champions of the spring split. Team SoloMid looks to take game 1. They take the second Nexus turret, and they find a win 30 minutes into the game.
18 kills to 6. It started slow, but ended fast for TSM. They really took it home here, and a very impressive performance there. Another day at the office for TSM.
Absolutely. Reginald being given one of the most aggressive champions in the game to fit his play style, and he continuously took it home. And really one thing to say there is he was up on Zed, right? He was up on Shifter most of the time, but Shifter mechanically played enough to not die always. So Reginald did have to go and find that in other lanes. So it was really the roam over Shifter that started to escalate that game.
A lot of it was just the free lane farm that Reginald was able to create because the rest of TSM was enabling it for him. That's the thing that these Kazakhs teams have been doing. It's not about Kazakhs individually in the lane.
Right.
It's the fact that he just gets so much more gold generated because